to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the extra time for Aston Villa for Everton. Everton get absolutely pummeled at Villa Park. Um, like I say, quite a regular occurrence at this stage. Everton have not beaten Villa since they came back up from the Championship in 2019. 9 games and no wins, and it's probably the most chastening of the lot. Of course, Villa have done pretty well since they come back up from the Championship, and it's testament to what can be done if you rebuild the club properly. Um, that's what we're going to need to do because odds are we're going to need to rebuild ourselves out of the Championship if this carries on. It's getting increasingly bleak and only 2 games in. Um, yeah, we need some action to be taken. Sharpish, this performance wasn't good enough. Not one single player turned up. Let's be honest, we were just wretched. I'll be quite honest, I didn't even see the fourth goal. The well and truly turned off by it then. Um, and some of the oh my goodness, what we can see is just awful. I just can't see a way out for us at the moment. I mean, we've got 11 days of the transfer window left. I'm not convinced that we're going to do enough business to give ourselves a fighting chance. And even if we do, like the cloud that hangs over the club from the owner and the chairman still being here and running the club or not running the club, let's put it that way, is gonna be enough to strangle the life out of the club. Um, even if some talented personnel come in, the culture around the club is so negative at the moment, and the rhetoric around the club is so negative. There's not going to be a way out. Um, at least I can't see one. The only thing I can encourage, to be honest, with the is at the moment is to get the protests back up off the ground because that's the only thing that's going to force serious change that'll see us potentially recover and get better as a club. Um, I'm actually surprised that we haven't maintained protests since the conclusion of the last season. We had a few in the middle of last year and then one or two after the season finished and we barely stayed up. We haven't had one since the statement was released regarding Ken Knight staying on in an interim role and the other members of the former board leaving in late June. So, we're talking 2 months down the line and not enough has been done to turn things around. We've brought a few players in, but not enough. Um, the club is still in a bad state. And like I say, the chairman's still here when he really should have been dismissed. And more concerning is that Mashiri's dragging his heels about selling to MSP when he's trying to lure 777 back in, who were apparently quite poor um, owners of the clubs they currently own. They're not well liked and they'll run this club poorly, just as the current regime are. So really, we are looking to MSP to rescue us, and it's a bit of an SOS shout this to MSP. Obviously, we need Machidi to stop dragging his heels and get that deal done. And hopefully that can mean some fresh impetus on the board. Ken Wright could be dismissed, and Mashidi's influence reduced. That definitely needs to happen. But yeah, like I say, that's the only thing I can see that could turn us around. In terms of the performance yesterday, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail about it because it just wasn't good enough as a collective. You know, there's obviously a lot of scapegoating going on at the moment. There are some really poor players here who I'm not a fan of, but I don't think what went on with Calvert-Lewin yesterday was right. People booed him for getting subbed off injured, which is just insane. He can't control that. And on again, racist abuse. That's like just not on whatsoever. And obviously, there's a few players like Mopay and Keane um, who get a lot of stick, but again, it's not their fault for getting picked. And I don't rate either of them, but like Deitch needs to stop picking them, or else he's basically hanging them two out to dry. Um, and Deitch is also being hung out to dry by being forced to play them because hierarchy aren't delivering the goods and getting him in the players he needs. So again, this all comes back to the protests need to get back off the ground, or else things aren't going to change here. And yeah, for me, you know, all of those players don't rate some of them. Some of them are unlucky. Some of them just aren't good enough. But they don't deserve abuse. Um, there's a lot of anger within the fan base at the moment. But if you're going to have that anger, channel it towards Mashiri and Kenwright and as is. And that's not me excusing the horrific performance of yesterday, but they're not the root cause of the problems. It all back. It goes back to the hierarchy, the owner and the chairman. If you're gonna, project your anger regarding the state of this club onto anyone, it should be them too, and lay off the players a little bit. I think, and that's not like I say. I'm not excusing the performances and criticize performances, but don't abuse the players. If you've got that kind of anger in the system, use it to fuel your desire for change. Let's get a protest going. Let's get back on trying to force the real change at this club, force the owner out, force the chairman out, and get some substantial change that can help the club get better. That's the only way it's going to really happen. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go into great detail about the performance because I've tried to block as much of it out of my mind as I possibly can. Some of the goals were wretched. Didn't even see the fourth, like I say. And yeah, the less said about it, the better. I mean, fingers crossed we go back to what's already looking like a crunch game against Wolves, Goodison next week. And well, fingers crossed we can get off the mark against that, because if we don't, then it's going to be really, really bleak. But see what happens on that front. For now, Aston Villa 4, Everton, let us know your opinions on the game. Get the comments coming in, give this video a like for more content. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Brews.